Chapter 31 Preparation. We were not surprised when Duryodhan refused to honor the terms of the wager and return Indraprastha to us. Nor, except for Yudhishthir, who had hoped for a peaceful solution, were we particularly disappointed. To tell the truth, the rest of us itched for war, for a chance to pay Duryodhan back for some of the suffering he had put us through. That very night, Dhri dispatched messengers to our potential allies, asking for help. Our situation was grim. Hastinapur had numerous supporters already, kings whose fathers and grandfathers had befriended Shantanu, then Bhishma, then Dhritarashtra. Could we expect them to switch generations of allegiance so easily? Many believed Duryodhan had done nothing wrong. Yudhishthir had gambled foolishly and lost all he possessed. Now he wanted it back. Which Kshatriya worth his name would acquiesce to such an unreasonable demand? In spite of these problems, our hearts were strangely light. Our blood beat illogically elated. Finally, was it only I who thought this way? Things would be resolved. Either we'd be avenged, or it would no longer matter because we'd be dead. Messengers were sent to every kingdom except Dwarka. We decided that Arjun should go to Krishna himself and ask his dearest friend to join us. We felt, we didn't know why, for Krishna hadn't won any major battles, that with him on our side we couldn't fail. It wouldn't hurt to have his notorious guerrilla troops, the Narayani Sena, fighting for us either. But Hastinapur employed many spies, and so, even before Arjun set off, Duryodhan mounted his fastest steed and spurred it toward Dwarka. He knew that if he arrived there first, the laws of hospitality would require Krishna to grant his request before he considered Arjun's. Here is what Duryodhan told Sakuni upon his return. Yes, we too had spies in Hastinapur. Well, uncle, that was an excellent idea of yours, to ride through the night, driving the horses hard, changing them whenever they flagged. I reached Dwarka at noon, quite a while before Arjun got there. Krishna was taking a nap, but they showed me into his room. There was just one armchair at the head of the couch where Krishna was sleeping. I made myself comfortable in it. Soon after, Arjun walked in. You should have seen his face when he saw me. There weren't any other seats. He should have taken the hint and left, but he squeezed himself into a little space at the foot of the couch, and as soon as Krishna stirred, he bowed down, the sycophant, and did pranam. Krishna, who as you know has been most unjustly partial to the Pandavas all along, asked him what he wanted. Well, I wasn't having any of that. I cleared my throat conspicuously and, when Krishna turned, pointed out that I had taken the trouble of getting there before Arjun, so I should get what I wanted before him. Slippery as he is, he said, But I saw Arjun first. That equals out your claims. And besides, he's younger, so you should allow him first choice. I was fuming, but I remembered what you said and held my tongue. I even managed a smile. Anyhow, things didn't turn out as badly as I feared, because what does Krishna do next but announce that he isn't going to actually fight in the war? Some kind of vow he had taken. I don't remember the details. He won't even carry weapons. Then he makes us this offer. We can either choose him or we can choose his Narayanis. That, as you know, was the main reason I'd gone there. I was certain that Arjun would choose the soldiers, but the fool got all sentimental, saying how he wanted nothing but his dear friend's guidance and blessings, and that no army could equal that. I had to use all my powers to keep from snorting with laughter. Anyhow, the upshot is that I got myself the Narayanis. They'll be on their way to Hastinapur in a day or so. And Arjun got himself a charioteer, because that's what Krishna's going to do during the war, drive his horses, though why he agreed to it I don't know. He is a king after all, even if his lands aren't much compared to ours. Impractical fools, both of them. They deserve each other. Balaram? Oh yes, I went to see him right afterward. He has been a good friend ever since I took those mace fighting lessons from him, and then sent him a cartload of my best sura as thanks. Yes, it was a shrewd move. He loves his drink, does Balaram. But I did it mostly because it's a pleasure to give something fine to a connoisseur. He's always claimed I have better technique than Bhim, which of course I do. That man wields a mace like it was a giant cucumber. I thought it would be easy to persuade Balaram to join our forces, but he said he couldn't go against his brother. However, because of his love for me, he'd stay out of the battle altogether. Then he said something strange. He said, "Where Krishna is, victory lies there." And he looked at me with such sadness in his eyes, as though I were already dead. I tell you, it gave me quite a turn. Made me wonder for a moment whether I'd made the wrong choice. I'm sure you're right. He thinks too highly of his brother's prowess. Can't blame him. They've been inseparable all through their lives, like Dushasan and myself. In any case, we have made our choice, and I never was one for regretting my decisions. I agree. Of course we are going to win. What was it at last count, the size of our army? 11 Akshauhini? I doubt that the Pandavas will be able to muster half that many soldiers, to say nothing of horses, chariots, elephants, and astras. The most seasoned warriors are on our side. Bhishma, Drona, and especially Karna, a friend like no other. Did you know he's taken a vow of abstinence? He isn't going to touch meat, wine, or women until the battle is done. He's taken to bathing in the Ganga each day for purification, and If a beggar or a Brahmin comes up to him at that time, he'll give them whatever they want. He believes that such acts of charity will push his powers to their peak so that he can destroy Arjun. With a fighter like him on our side, how can we lose? But just in case we don't win, I plan on dying with full glory on the battlefield. That would be far better than sharing my kingdom with those cursed Pandavas. For whatever my shortcomings. No, no, uncle, you flatter me by calling me faultless. I know myself better than that. I thank the God of war and death that cowardice isn't one of them. Even bedchambers are not safe from efficient spies, and our spies were efficient indeed. Thus, we knew that folks in Hastinapur were not sleeping well. The blind king started from his slumber with nightmares of mountains built on his sons' skulls. Dushasan awoke clutching his chest and screaming Bhim's name. Duryodhan drank himself into a stupor to keep from wearing out his floors with pacing. I cannot say I felt pity for any of them. Only Karna, our informants reported, slept soundly and awoke clear-eyed to perform his daily ablutions by the river, where each day more people gathered to ask him for alms. Rumor had it that he had given away half his wealth already. If this continued, he'd be a pauper by the time the fighting began. My husbands exclaimed at this folly, and Arjun said scoffingly, he was always a show-off. But I knew Karna wasn't showing off. He had never cared to do so. Instead, by giving to the poor, he was atoning for his misdeeds and securing a place in heaven. No matter what he said to bolster Duryodhan's confidence, I could see that he didn't expect to live past the war. Nor, my heart constricted when I realized this, did he seem to want to do so. People love to believe that virtue is rapidly rewarded and that agitation is the fruit of unrighteousness. But things are not so simple. For instance, Bhishma, whom the Kauravas had chosen as their commander-in-chief, was found sitting on the white stones by the Ganga at dawn, his shawl wet with night dew. Dhri, who was to lead the Pandava army, duelled with the captain of the guard each day until he was bruised and exhausted, and still he could not sleep. Kunti had borne our years of exile stoically in Vidur's home, but now she fell ill and could eat nothing. When Yudhishthir asked her to join us in Virat's palace, she made implausible excuses. Even the blessing she sent as my husbands prepared for war was ambiguously worded. She prayed for their victory and wished that they wouldn't have to spill the blood of their brothers. Brothers, Bhim cried when he heard her message. Since when have those Kaurava vermin been our brothers? While Sahadev wondered if Duryodhan hadn't used Gandhari to brainwash their mother. Half-moons of dark bloomed under my husband's eyes. Arjun, who currently shared my bed, flailed out in his dreams, speaking harshly in a language I didn't recognize, calling Abhimanyu's name. Walking out into the corridor one night, I found Yudhishthir at a window, staring at the moon-bleached grass. He too had dreamed of a skull mountain. But there was more to his dream. On top of the mountain was a great, glittery throne, and on it were seated the 5 Pandavas, goblets of victory wine in their hands. When they raised them to their lips, the drink turned to blood. For my part, I dreamed of beasts. Riderless horses screamed their terror through my nights, the whites of their eyes gleaming in firelight. Elephants fell to their knees, trumpeting bloodily. Jackals slunk through smoke, torn human limbs gripped in their teeth. And always a great grey owl flew through the heavy air, its wings obliterating the sky, terrifying me for no reason that I could name. I should have tried to understand what the dreams foretold. I should have discussed them with my husbands and cautioned them accordingly. I should have urged them to step carefully on this road that would soon be strewn with death. But I didn't want to heed anything that might keep me from the revenge I'd waited for so long. When my husbands hesitantly mentioned their nightmares, I laughed. I didn't expect such superstition from the foremost heroes of Bharat, I taunted them. Of course, there will be blood. Of course, there will be death. As Kshatriyas, isn't that what you have trained for all your lives? And are you afraid now? What could they do in response except commit themselves more deeply to the preparations of war? Not to be outdone by humans, the gods were busy with their own preparations. Perhaps they were impressed by Karna's woes. Perhaps his determination worried them. In any case, they chose him for their machinations. The result became the stuff of song long before the armies assembled in Kurukshetra. Sitting in Sudeshna's balcony, winding my matted hair around my fingers, I heard it with a conflicted heart. This is how the song went. The sun god, Karna's chosen deity, appeared in Karna's dream. Tomorrow, Surya warned, the king of the gods will come to you at noon, disguised as a Brahmin, to beg for your gold armor and earrings. But you must not relinquish them. They alone protect you from the twin curses that follow you like beasts tracking their prey. Without them, you cannot hope to defeat Arjun or to survive the war. That is why Indra wants them. If Karna was disturbed by this news, he did not show it. "O Great One," he said, "tell me first, how did I get these amulets?" "Did the gods hesitate?" he said. "Your father gave them to you." "Tell me then," Karna asked, "who is my father?" In a subdued voice, he added, and my mother." "Forgive me," the sun god said. "I am not allowed to speak their names. You will know them soon enough, though the knowledge may not bring you joy." At the look on Karna's face, he added, "Do not fear. You are nobly born. Your mother is a queen and your father is a god. But listen carefully. Tomorrow, before Indra speaks, forestall him by saying that you will give him anything but your armor. In this way, you will not break your promise." Karna stood silent, weighing vengeance against his good name. Finally, he said, "I am triply blessed that you, Lord of my heart, have chosen to warn me. But, by following your advice, I'd still break the spirit of my vow. People would say that when Karna was threatened with loss of life, he couldn't keep his word, and this I can't tolerate." When Surya realized that Karna would not change his mind, he spoke with regret and admiration. "Do this at least. Tell Indra that you know his plan. In chagrin, he will offer you a boon. Ask for his Shakti, the weapon that even his son, Arjun, cannot withstand. Then you might still have a chance of achieving your heart's desire." Karna said nothing. Perhaps he wondered if Surya truly knew what his heart's desire was. So many yearnings clashed against each other inside him. He himself was no longer sure. The next day, all went as Surya had prophesied, except this. When Karna had cut the amulets from his body, Indra said, "Karna, even I could not have done what you did. I give you my Shakti and one other boon. As long as the land of Bharat floats on the ocean, you will be known as the greatest of givers. In this your fame will surpass Arjun's." The song ended there, but I imagined more. As Karna walked to the palace, blood dripped from his self-inflicted wounds. But on his face there was a victorious smile, for the god had given him a boon to negate the curse the Pandava queen had laid on him a long time ago, declaring that posterity would remember only his shameful deeds. I should have been angered at being foiled. Why then did I too find myself smiling? Warriors gathered around us with their armies. Satyaki and Drishtaketu, Jayatsena, the Kekaya brothers, the kings of Pandya and Mahishmati, my father accompanied by Sikhandi and my sons. The air smelled of molten metal, for every smithy in the land was busy forging armor. Our forces totaled 7 Akshauhini, and the dust from their marching obscured the sun. But our numbers were nowhere close to Duryodhan's. At this time I had another dream. A woman wrapped in a shawl stood beside a river, her back to me. Dawn mist rose from the river's calm skin. She started as though she had heard something. I realized that in my dream there were no sounds. The river ran silently, and the birds were mute. Now I could see a man. Even before I saw his face, I knew him to be Karna. How did I know? He had none of the scars I had expected from cutting away his armor. Was it the way he held himself, the way he walked? Or did some strange bond connect us, even in this dream world? The woman moved toward him, her face still hidden. I could tell that she wasn't young. She raised her hand in a regal gesture. Could it be Gandhari? But what would she want to say to her son's best friend that couldn't be spoken in the palace? Perhaps she wanted Karna to persuade her son to peace. If so, she was wasting her time. Then I saw Karna recoil. Amazement and suspicion chased each other across his face before courtesy won and he bowed. And even before she threw back her shawl, I knew it was Kunti that had come to meet so secretly with the man who boasted he was the nemesis of the Pandavas. Kunti was weeping. All these years I had never seen her weep. When she had heard of my humiliation at the hands of Duryodhan, she had pressed her lips together until they were bloodless. When we left for our 12 years of exile, her eyes had been bright with unshed tears. But always she had been in control, the same alabaster queen who had towered over me at our first meeting in the slums of Campilya. Today, however, tears streamed down her cheeks, and there was a look on her face of such careless abandon that I was startled. She held out her arms toward Karna, as one would to an intimate, and then, as he backed away, she knelt in a gesture of supplication. Vainly I strained to read her lips. Was she begging him not to fight against her sons? Was this what worry and age had reduced her to? Would she stoop so low, humiliating us all with her weakness? But what I saw next astonished me further. I had expected Karna to end their meeting with a curt refusal, but he was speaking passionately, with angry gestures. What could he have said to her? Now he was brushing tears from his own eyes. Karna! Even in the dream I felt my amazement at this. Now he was lifting her tenderly, touching her feet while she smoothed his hair. Why did he bend over her hands, kissing them? With every fiber of my being, I longed to hear their words as they continued talking. He held up his right hand to show her 5 fingers. Was he referring to my 5 husbands? He held up the index finger of his left hand so that she was looking at 6 fingers. Then he fisted his left hand and dropped it as if it were a stone. Kunti burst into fresh weeping. She clutched his arm so that he couldn't release himself without hurting her. I saw her lips pronounce a word I recognized. For one's own name is a word nobody can mistake, heard or unheard. Draupadi, she had always called me, though she knew I preferred to be addressed otherwise. All my old suspicions of her flared up. What was she saying about me to the man who had once wanted to be my husband? Karna grew very still. For the first time, indecision flickered over his face. After a while, he sighed, as though awakening from a dream. He shook her hands off, bowed coldly, and left without a word. As I awoke, the thought came to me that he hadn't trusted himself to speak. And this too came to me. When I saw him in the dream, I was no longer angry with Karna. When had my feelings changed? I still wanted the war. I still longed for vengeance against Duryodhan and Dushasan. But when I thought of Karna, I only remembered the moment at my Swayamvar, when I had spoken the words that turned a bright-faced youth into a bitter man. Truly, the heart is incomprehensible. I agonized over whether to tell my husbands the dream. I sensed that what I'd seen had occurred in reality, though the reason for it was no clearer to my waking brain. Finally, I decided to say nothing. I didn't want them to torture themselves by wondering why their mother had met with their fiercest opponent. They needed to concentrate on other matters now. They needed to harden their hearts against kinsmen they'd loved all their lives. They needed to pluck guilt from their souls. If they were to gain the revenge they had promised me, they needed to proceed without being racked by the doubt that had awakened in my heart as I watched Kunti's inexplicable tears. The voice that whispered, "Could it be?"